Hello everyone, I'm Bhavna Thur, founder of Shenomics.com, a platform to help women create a bigger impact with their work. Today we're talking about how to put your strengths to work. A very important topic, as studies have shown people who use the talents and strengths that come most naturally to them at work are likely to be 6 times more engaged at work and experience 3 times the amount of life satisfaction, both of which make creating a bigger impact a much more joyful experience. So I'm very excited to welcome Rinnku Ganaesh, who is a veteran human resources professional and founder of Rightwaay Talent Consulting and has over 16 years of experience managing and leading organizational initiatives, helping both men and women discover and use their natural behavioral style. Rinnku, thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Bhavna. It's my pleasure to be invited on to have a chat about, and talk to people about explaining about their natural behavioral style. So my pleasure to be here.
Rinnku, I'm so excited to speak to you because at Shenomics, we believe your journey to tapping your highest potential has to begin with an understanding of who you are. And I know that's the foundation of your work as well. So if I could just begin with asking you, what is a natural behavioral style and why is it so important for each one of us to understand what that is for us?
Okay, so that's a great question. We as human beings, we are all hardwired in some way. So from the time we are born, we are listening to all the external stimuli. So we are listening to all of that, and we are getting conditioned, to respond in a certain manner based on what we've been seeing, okay, and what we've been hearing, experiencing, and observing, from our childhood. So, we keep storing that, our subconscious mind is storing, all those things that we are seeing, observing, experiencing, and we store that in our subconscious mind as responses. So we learn to respond to different situations in a given manner that we've been responding to always. Okay, so over a long period of time, that becomes our natural behavioral style. Okay, so we get hardwired. So let's say now, let me give you an example. Okay, we've seen two-way switches, right, in our homes. Okay, so we know, everyone knows there are two-way switches. Okay, but not every home has those two-way switches. Okay, so when we get into when we get into our bedrooms at night, and let's say we want to turn on the light, what's the first thing we do? We always put the switch down, right? Because that's what we are conditioned to do, okay, from childhood, and that's our natural behavioral response, to doing that. But then, we turn we press the switch down and we see the light doesn't go on, okay? And then we're wondering what happened. And then we realize, oh, there could be something like a two-way switch. So sometimes I have to turn this thing up, not down, okay? So that's exactly what I mean. Just like we learn to always press, or put, press those switches down, okay? So we as human beings, and there's nothing, right or wrong, there's nothing good or bad. We are all different, so we adapt, we have certain responses over a period of time. Again, like I said, based on our experiences, based on our observations, based on what's happening in our family, based on the kind of situations that we go through, and we form certain behavioral patterns. So that's what we call our natural behavioral style.
Okay. And why is it important for each of us to understand what our style is? Like, why is it important for me to understand what my natural style is?
Yes, so it's very important. Now, research has shown, okay, now this goes back all the way to Carl Jung, who was a very, very famous Swiss psychologist. So way back in 1921, he wrote a book called The Different Psychological Types, which is where he described, so he did a lot of research on why people behave the way they do, okay? And he found that people could be actually categorized, into different psychological types. So he had something called the behavioral axis, and he did a lot of work on it and put together. He said people can be extroverts, introverts, they can be the sensing kind, the thinking kind, the feeling kind. So there are 8, descriptions like this that he put together. And then somebody called William Moulton Marston, okay, he came and he decided to pick up Carl Jung's work and said, let me see if people fall into, a certain predictable pattern. Is there a certain predictable pattern of behavior? So Marston then researched it further, and then he wrote a book, which says The Emotions of Normal People, where he describes the philosophy called DISC, okay, DISC, and he said, People are different, but they are predictably different. Okay, and then that's when he said that people can be put into four different styles, which is called dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. And each of these styles have their own strengths, their own fears, their own motivators. The way they react to stress, each of it is different.
Great. So you've talked about how there are four distinct styles. There's dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. Could you just briefly explain what each one of these is? For instance, if my style is dominance, how would I behave?
Sure. So let me briefly, give you a little insight into the four styles. Okay. I'll do that with an example. Okay. So let's say that we are at a bank. Okay. We walk into, of course, we do a lot of online banking today. But let's say that you have to get into a bank. You have to visit a branch someday. Okay. And it's your lunch time, and that's the time that you've got. You're at the bank. You're at the teller, and you want to deposit that money. Because and it's a huge amount of money, and you want to do it yourself. You don't want to, give it to anybody else. Now, there's a long line at the teller, okay? And a person with a style dominance. So you would see this person saying, "Oh my God, what the hell is happening?" Stamping their foot and pounding their fist. And can we just get the other teller there? What's happening? It's lunchtime and you just have a long queue here. Such a long line. Why don't you get the other guy? Look at that guy just whiling away his time. Please ask him to open the other teller. The other counter there. So that person is dominance. Okay, so what is he trying to do? Trying to control the environment, trying to make others do something. So these people are drivers. Okay, so they are excellent with their communication skills. They're very high energies. They're very enthusiastic. They're very decisive. So he's made a decision now that I want the other counter to be opened. Okay, so that's how they are. And of course, they're very independent and self-centered. So, that's how they are. Okay, so that's the style dominance. What happens to the style influence? Okay, now the style influence, they're also high energy people, very enthusiastic. The style is called influence because they're wonderful at inspiring others, influencing others, very charismatic people. They're great people managers. Okay, so that's how they are. But however, since they are great people managers, what will the style influence do? So, they would say, hey, wait, don't shout. It's upsetting the other person. So maybe they just walk out of the line, go to the other person there and say, do you mind if you open the other counter? That'll be wonderful if you can do that, but in a much more polite and, in a manner which is much more pleasing. Okay? Because they're thinking about, oh, okay. Then maybe the person tells them, no, that's not my job. Okay? So, but you see, there's a long line out here, why don't you try and help us out? And, so that's the style influence. Okay? What about the style steadiness? Now, these are very calm people, they're very calm, quiet people. Okay? And it's very disturbing for them internally. Okay, and these people love to work on instructions. So these are the more passive people. Okay, so D and I are the more active kind of people. Now the S is a very passive person. They're waiting that somebody will go and do this. So when they see the D and the I's doing something about it, they're happy because it was worrying them. So long they were worried. What's going to happen? Am I going to get back to office in time? But they're not the ones who would talk loudly. Okay, so they always wait for somebody else to do it. Okay, so and of course they're friendly people, they're pleasant people, and they're team players. Okay, so they would never do anything to raise a conflict or have a confrontation or anything like that. Okay, but they're waiting for somebody else to do it for them. Okay, now what about the style C? Okay, now the style C, they may be pacing up and down. Okay, because again they're very restless people. These are also the passive people, so you will not see them, talking or saying anything loudly, but what you will see them doing is they will start texting. Okay, they will start texting their manager, hey, I'm still at the tellers, and I think there's a long line here, so I might be late. Okay, or you might see them on the mobile phone, picking up their phone and either texting, preferably texting, because the C's love writing everything down, because the style is compliance. So they want to make sure they are very, very focused on perfection, accuracy. Okay, they're very logical. They work with a lot of data. So they love writing. Their communication style is more writing, than spoken. Okay, so you would not find them maybe talking, but you will find texting because they want to be careful, with everything that they do. Okay, so definitely they want to keep their manager informed. Okay, and they want to make sure that there's evidence that they have sent a message out to their manager in case the manager tells them that, because they fear being wrong. Okay, so the C's fear being wrong. They don't want to do anything wrong, so they make sure that either email is sent out or a text message is sent out that I'm still here and I might take another 15 minutes. Okay? So you see, same situation, but very different responses.
Well, thank you for putting that into context for us. One thing I want to emphasize, which is what I'm hearing from you, is that there is no right or wrong. So if your style is dominance, for example, that doesn't make you any better or any worse than someone whose style is steadiness, let's say. And if your style is dominance, that doesn't make you any more or any less likely to succeed than someone whose style is steadiness or compliance. It doesn't matter what your style is, each one of these styles can be used to your advantage, correct?
Absolutely, you can use each of these styles to your advantage. Now, like I said, why do we call it the natural behavioral style? So some things come easily to each of these styles. For example, for the Ds, it's very easy for them to give instructions. Okay, so they make decisions, they can chalk a plan out, they can give instructions. Okay, so they can be pioneers. They're great idea generators. So they can think up of so many different ideas. Okay, so generating ideas is their forte. They can do that. Okay, now, however, when it comes to execution, the Ds would get pretty bored, so they would not want to sit down and get into the details or get their hands dirty. Okay, so that's where the Ds need to recognize that, okay, I'm great at planning, strategizing, giving instructions, setting up things. Okay, but then for the day-to-day operations, I need to let this go. I can't do this because it's going to frustrate me. So there are certain things which frustrate us also, all the different styles. Similarly, an I is wonderful at speaking with people, managing people, and all of that. But if you give an I the job of a quality specialist, they wouldn't do well because they're not too great with details. Okay, they would miss the finer details because they're more focused on keeping people happy, and giving them the right support, making sure that everyone has the right resources, having a happier environment at work, things like that. So they would make great HR people, great teachers, so things like that. So each of the styles have a different role. So the S's are great team players. If you ask them to lead a team, they would be very uncomfortable because they don't want to get into any confrontations. And when you're a team leader, you've got to, sack people. You've got to fire people sometimes. You've got to go and tell them you're not doing a great job. So that's something which is very uncomfortable for them. So you see, and the C's, they're highly focused on quality. They're highly focused on quality and they're perfectionists. They would look into analysis. So they're the rocket scientist guys. They're the ones, the quality control guys. So they have the highest attention to detail. Every comma on your presentation, they would take the utmost, care to make it look beautiful. Okay. So again, but since they're paying so much attention to quality, they may take a longer time, to finish their work because they want to really make sure that, they've done a perfect job. So you see again, so based on the styles, it's important to recognize, what is my natural style and what is my strength? What can I do really well? And then get somebody else to do something which is not your style, with the complementary styles. Because as a woman entrepreneur or as corporate leaders, we need all of these skill sets. So in any job or even when you're managing just your home, you need to drive results, the dominant style. Okay, you need to be, manage your people, the influence style. You need to be a team player, which is the S style, okay, the steadiness. And of course, you need to pay attention to quality. Okay, so we need to do all of it. But then we are not superhuman beings. So let's understand where our strengths lie and then get somebody else who has that strength to do the other thing for us. Okay, right. So that's where it all boils down to.
Wonderful. And also when it comes to leadership styles, it's one can be fit into any one of these 4 categories and still be a successful leader.
Absolutely.
Can you give us a few examples of women leaders that fall into different buckets but are still very successful doing what they do?
Sure. For the style dominance, I can think of Indira Gandhi. Our Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of India, she was the Prime Minister of India. So if you look at Indira Gandhi, okay, she became the Prime Minister. We had the emergency and all of that at that time. I do not know how old people are, but yes, they would remember that there was an emergency and all of that in India. But she managed that, and that's the time when she became the Prime Minister. And it was a beautiful situation. It was a situation where there was, what should I say? And there was curfew in India, there was emergency, there was a lot of conflict happening. So that's where the style dominance will really do well, because at that time you need a very decisive leader. You need a leader who will, come up there, take the situation in their hands and say, I am making a decision that I'm going to do this now. Okay, because it's very important. Somebody needs to make a decision. So she was a very decisive leader, fitting into the style of dominance, made decisions for India. She said, this is what we will do. Okay, this is how we will manage the emergency. This is what we will do now. And then, of course, she served, for many years as Prime Minister of India, and you can see that she really took India, to the globally. People knew who Indira Gandhi was and what the country India meant. So people started learning about India and learning about Indira Gandhi, right? So I think that's one example that I can give you, for the style dominance. Of course, we have other women leaders across the world, like Margaret Thatcher, again a great example, for a woman leader, with the style dominance. The style influence. Let me see. Okay, so for a woman leader of the style influence, I can think of.
How about
Okay,
someone like Mother Teresa, let's say? What would...
Mother Teresa would be the style steadiness.
Okay.
Okay, Mother Teresa is the style steadiness, because these people are very compassionate, caring. They want to look at others. They want to care for the world. They are more for, like, they live for the community, no confrontation. Work as a team. So you see, Mother Teresa did all of that. They're the peace-loving, calm people. Okay, so style steadiness, and they're always looking at what can I give back to the community and how can I, help not just me. They're not just thinking about themselves, but how can I help everyone, come up in life. So that Mother Teresa would be the style steadiness. Let me think of an example for I. I can't really think of one right now, but I can think of a C example, which is you said Indian examples. So I can think of Preeta Reddy. Okay, she is the managing director for the Apollo hospitals. Okay, and recently I read a statement which she gave to the Economic Times, and she said, "I'm committed to work for the quality of Apollo hospitals." So you see, even when she's giving a statement, she's speaking about quality. Okay, so she would very aptly fall into the style compliance. And even if you look at the way she dresses and everything, so there's so much perfection in the way they do their things. Okay, so everything is in place, every time she comes out, and the way she dresses, the way she speaks, the way she conducts herself. So very, very sure of, how she wants to project herself. And every time that she speaks, she's always speaking about improving the quality, of the Apollo hospitals. So that's one leader that I can think of compliance. For the style influence, I can think of, maybe Kiran Majumdar Shah as a style eye. Okay, so because she's also very concerned about keeping. She's of course the CEO and managing director of Biocon, and I know that Biocon invests a lot in people and learning and development initiatives, and making sure that the people potential is enhanced, and all of that. So she wants to make sure that Biocon is really an employer of choice and the best place to work and all of that. So that is somebody that I can. So that's what they want to do. So Style Eye is always making sure that the place that they work is the best place to work. That people are feeling engaged, people are feeling happy, and there is a way that people can come back and share, if they have any grievances. So they put together a mechanism in place, So those kind of things. So that's what I would call a Style Eye.
Wonderful. Well, Rinnku, thank you for sharing all this useful information with us. I think it's been a very important discussion. And from everything you've shared, what I'm taking away is that, one, it's very important to understand what your unique behavioral style is. Two is to accept it, because like you said, there is no right or wrong. So whatever style comes most naturally to me, I should embrace it because I can use it to my advantage. I don't need to change myself or force fit myself into another style in order to succeed. And three, that it's really important to actively use our talents and skill and strengths, or whatever style comes most naturally to us at work, because that's when we are most likely to be energized at work, truly engaged with our work, and get the most joy out of our work. So thank you for all of these valuable points. Now, to everyone watching, we'd love to hear from you. So in the comments section below, if you could let us know, what is your unique style? What is your strength? And how are you using it to succeed at work? That's it for now. Rinku, thank you so much for joining us. It's truly been a pleasure having you.
My pleasure too, Bhavna. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.